Hey everybody, welcome back to Carbon's DIY Garage. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I really recommend you do so. Got a whole bunch of new projects coming up, but today it's makeover day. These Fender Flares are looking pretty rough, so it's out with the old, in with the new. Got a new set of Fender Flares from YitaMotors that they sent me to install and show you how to do that and tell you what I think. There's a link in the video description. For the first 2 weeks that this video is posted, you can get 10% off of these flares, so go check that out. So before I get into the installation video, I wanted to talk about these a little bit because I think hearing about it first and hearing my thoughts about it first will help the actual installation video look and make more sense. So first of all, these are really well boxed. They show up in a really nice packaging setup, so you don't have to worry about them getting damaged in transit, which I really appreciated. You can see they're pretty thin. They're stainless steel, black powder coated, and they're actually two pieces of metal welded together. And it looks really nice, but there are some gaps in between the two pieces of steel where they didn't apply the weld, but once you get it installed, you really can't see it, so that is not a downside for me. They do come with the appropriate number of bolt holes drilled in them, but for me, and this very early model, I think it's a spring of '96 build for this 1997 Jeep TJ, the holes did not line up at all with where the fenders have their own holes. So putting fasteners, just a complete bolt-on, that's not going to happen. At least didn't happen for me. Definitely some fabrication involved in putting these on. And you're going to have to choose whether you're going to drill holes in your fenders or whether you're going to drill more holes in the Fender Flares to get it to all line up. So for me, more than half the amount of time it took to get these new Fender Flares installed was spent getting the old Fender Flares off. So my Jeep is old, and the Fender Flares that came off were not the originals, but they've been on for a long time. All the attachment hardware was super rusted, and there was no chance at all of getting them off with anything other than an angle grinder. So that's what you're going to see in the video, is me spending a lot of time getting the old ones off. Unfortunately, there are some nutserts involved in the body panels, and those were so rusted I had no choice but to mangle them and pull them out of the body. So if you have a different, cleaner, newer, nicer setup, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get the old Fender Flares off. So that was a real challenge for me, and it shouldn't detract at all from what you think about the new Fender Flares, because you got to get the old ones off no matter what. So let's talk about the new Fender Flares. They do come with holes in them, and you do have to decide whether or not you're going to use those holes or drill some more of your own. And if you're going to use the holes on these flares, you're going to have to drill holes in your fenders. Talk about fasteners. So they come with these really, I would say weird, I've never seen them before, but they're supposedly drilling fasteners. They're M5 bolts that have some sort of, looks like it should be sharp, but it's not really, tip on it, and this rubber spacer maybe, I'm not sure. Probably supposed to be a spacer to go up against the Fender Flare. But anyway, I couldn't figure out how to make them work. I didn't really like them, so I went out and bought some 1/4-20, 1-inch long bolts, nuts, washers, all stainless steel, and that's what I used to put these flares on the Jeep. I had to drill holes anyway, so may as well make them the size I needed to fit those bolts. So since you do have to drill some holes, one way you could do it, and it's the way I did it for the first one as I was trying to learn how to do this to give you the best means of installing them, was take the new Fender Flare, put it up against the fender, and try to figure out where the hole should go. I don't recommend doing it that way. This box that they send is really nice, and you can make a template of the Fender Flare out of the top and bottom of the box. Put the cardboard up against the fender, it's super easy. You can figure out where to drill your holes, and you should be good to go. You could also take a piece of cardboard and put it up against the fender, and from the back side, use paint or a marker or something to mark where your holes in your fenders are. That'll tell you, then you can transfer that over to the Fender Flare and drill new holes in the flare. So there's different ways of doing it, but I do recommend you come up with some sort of template method, and you'll see that in the video. So in the end, I really do like the look and feel of these new Fender Flares. They're solid, they're gonna hold on in place. I do like the fact that they're stainless steel, and even if you do scratch some of the powder coat off, you can just spray paint it black and you're back to good to go. It does take some fabrication work to get it installed after you've done the work of getting the old ones off. and you're probably going to want to consider using different fasteners from what they ship you. For the price point, it's definitely worth considering. And you know, if you click the link in the video description, in the first 2 weeks of this video being posted, you'll actually get 10% off. And yeah, I look forward to a long time with these Fender Flares. I think they're going to hold up well, and they definitely make the Jeep look a lot better. So I'll give it a thumbs up. And if you're not afraid to do a little bit more work than just bolt on, bolt off, everything lines up perfectly, then I think you'll be really happy with them too. So from that, let's go ahead and take a little bit more in depth on how I installed these Fender Flares. First thing on the front flares you've got to do is disconnect the wire harness or the light bulb for the side marker on the original Flares, and that's real simple. That's just a bit of a turn and then pull it out, and you can see there's actually 3 keyways on these, and so you just need to do that quarter turn to get it loose, pull it out. If you didn't notice, the new Flares do not have side markers or a place for them, so I gotta figure out what I want to do with that. But to start with, I am just going to secure this harness out of the way and run without any visible side markers. They're not required by law in Texas, so we'll just do that to start with and see where it goes from there. So to show you what I'm dealing with here on the front Flares, and I'm assuming it's going to be this way all the way around. TDSR is loves the rust, and so these are what's left of the screws that are holding these Flares onto the fender. They are all rusted out, and I don't know how I'm going to get them out. These towards the rear, these bottom 3, you can't access the backside very easily, but you can reach up here. Oops, you can reach up here from underneath and access the back of all 3 of these. Supposedly there's nut certs in there, and you can just unscrew these easily. That's probably not going to happen for me, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on getting this fender off. If I can get these, I think it's 9 fasteners out, then the flare should just pull off. This is what the rest of the fender looks like. Dirty, rusty, but my plan is to obviously clean it up a little bit, smooth out some spots, and then I'm going to cover it with some primer to try to help preserve the body. And of course it'll be covered up by the new flare, so I'm not too worried about it not looking all that pretty underneath here. So here's a good demonstration of just how off the factory holes are from the holes you need to drill for these new flares. They're close, but not nearly close enough. Some of these are up the top are just in a totally different place. So using this template hopefully will make things a lot easier to get these mounted up. on the front of the Jeep, these two fasteners go into nutserts that you have no access to from the backside, and you don't have access from the bottom either. So I was lucky in that I was able to back this one out with some PB Blaster going nice and slow. This one just sheared off, so I'm gonna have to get that off once I get the fender off. The rest of these bolts are rusted, but I have access to the back, so just gonna use the angle grinder to take care of those. But I don't have a nutsert tool, and I think what I'm gonna do for installing the new flares is just get the remnants of this bolt out of the way and reuse the bolt that was down here, and then just skip this one. And I know maybe that's just cheating or being lazy, but don't really want to mess with the nutserts and that sort of stuff. So this is the passenger side rear, and I've got the template in place to go around the wheel well. Show you what I'm going to do here. So this is where that I'm reusing that screw, that bolt from before. So I didn't mark a hole. I'm not going to mark a hole here because I'm going to drill that one into the fender flare later. This is the hole I'm going to skip because it would go into this cavity, and I'm not going to do that nutsert. And I've got these holes, no problem, no problem. This hole on the back side, the lighting's not going to work, but this hole would actually go into, I think, a structural piece. It's like the frame kind of comes together behind here. So I'm actually not going to drill that hole out either because it's not going to work. And then I'll drill this hole out. So I'm going to end up having a blank here and a blank on the other side, and we'll see if that works. And if it's too much of a gap, probably end up just drilling a different hole in the fender flare. Just to show you the back side of this hole that I'm talking about right here, it would actually end up going right back into this corner, and I think it would come through just right into this structural piece, and I don't think that's going to work. So that's the reason I'm going to skip this one.
And that left a nice pink circle on the backside, so now I know where to center up the hole I need to drill for that bolt.
And that's pretty much everything that's unique about installing these fender flares. At this point, you're using the same techniques to get the old flares off, drill new holes, clean up the fenders, and install the new flares.
So that's going to put a wrap on this installation video for these YitaMotors fender flares. Again, there's a link in the video description for 10% off for the first 2 weeks this video is posted. I think they turned out really nice, and that's going to be a pretty nice new look for TDSR. One thing I'm going to do, since this weird half-step thing is no longer present, I'm going to get some body armor on the bottom to kind of make the bottom part here look just as nice as the fender flares. And yeah, we're going to keep working on this Jeep. Some more projects coming, so subscribe to the channel to keep up with everything else that's happening with this 1997 Jeep TJ. Until that next video, you guys have a good one, and we'll see you back here soon.